Once you start cycle syncing, it will definitely impact your well-being. There's a lot of things that I learned about myself through cycle syncing. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kother. Welcome. It's so nice to meet you. I'm excited to talk about cycle syncing because I believe that there's a lot of myths and a lot of things that culturally that we're taught, you know, like period could be like the worst thing and having cramps and just really negative about our cycles. So let's talk about the different types of rhythms because I think it's important to understand the different types of clocks that we have. So as women and men, we have the circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour clock. It helps regulate our daily processes like going to sleep, digestion, body temperature, the elimination process, and even our hormones. As women, we have also an infradian rhythm, and this is basically connected to our menstrual cycle, 28 to 35 days. One of the easiest way to remember your cycles is to align them with seasons. So I like to think of my menstrual phase as your inner winter and your follicular phase as your inner spring and your ovulatory phase as your inner summer. And then we have luteal phase, which is your inner fall. A lot of us are aware of the menstruation period. As for me, that's all I really knew most of my life. Our infradian rhythm influences our brain chemistry and just overall physiology of our body. Our brain chemistry is super important in terms of like getting tasks done, you know, being a mom and working and just living day to day. If we are more aware of our cycles, then it will help us bring out our gifts and our strengths every single month. It's not really about not having enough time. It's more of us ignoring this second clock that we have within our bodies that can be really empowering once we start engaging with it and being more aware of our cycles every month. So I'm sure you're all familiar with your menstrual phase. This is the time where you get your period every month. Progesterone drops during this time and it triggers your uterus to shed the uterine lining, and during this time all of your hormones are at its lowest. The types of foods that are best to eat during this time is hot foods, so like soups and stews are really good for you to eat. I love bone broth as well. I also like to focus on low glycemic veggies and fruits to help keep my blood sugar balanced during this time. When you're losing a lot of blood, it's good to focus on building up that iron, so having more stews and soups are really great for you during this time. Exercise during menstruation, I personally don't like to work out. Some people, if they're like, I really want to move my body and I don't want to like not work out, then walking and doing low impact workouts during this time would be best, but resting is really important during your menstrual phase. I also like to use this time to kind of reflect and analyze just like what's been working well in my life. I do this every single month and I take a moment to really evaluate things in my life. Am I holding up my boundaries? Am I saying yes to things when I really mean no? This is a really good time to kind of go inwards and ask yourself these questions, and I kind of become a little hermit during this time of the month. In terms of sex and love, you will most likely be dry during this time of the month, so it's best to avoid sexual intercourse. It's totally okay to take a break from sex and just take time for yourself during this time of the month. So the follicular phase happens right after your period, and this is the time when estrogen starts rising and initiates the renewal of your uterine lining. It's a great time to try new things. You are more open, more creative, so you might have an increase of concentration, so you might be better at brainstorming, planning, researching, interviewing people, dreaming, initiating, and just exploring during this time of your cycle. And this can apply to making new friends, trying a workout class, maybe even try new things with your partner, and yes, even in the bedroom. So this is a great time also to explore new things with your partner. You can totally tap into your desires and ask yourself, is this pleasurable? Am I enjoying this? Just explore. And you could totally add foreplay, so a lot of touching, massages. But if you have been thinking about trying new positions or exploring a certain thing, this is a great time to explore that. During this time, I love to focus on fresh, vibrant, light foods that will help make you feel more energized during this time of the month. Think of like fresh salads, maybe even a cold smoothie, seeds, lean proteins, lots of vegetables, and even grains. So maybe like an overnight oat would be like a perfect breakfast during this time of the month. So during this time, you are gonna have a lot of energy. So doing cardio, dancing, maybe even a HIIT workout. And you might not have as much energy during the rest of your cycle to do these things. So really focusing on trying new beginnings is really great to do during your follicular phase. Now we're gonna talk about ovulatory phase, which is my favorite phase. This is your inner summer. For me personally, I feel my absolute best during this time of the month, and I just love to dress up. I feel like even when I go out to the store, I get a lot more people interacting with me, just super magnetic. And I'm like, wow, once I started cycle syncing, I saw a huge difference during this time of the month. And I also feel really good about myself. I feel more confident during this time of the month, I feel attractive, I feel really happy during this time of the month, and it's absolutely my favorite time. And it only lasts for a few days, but it's my absolute favorite. So in terms of hormones, you're gonna get a dramatic rise in estrogen, followed by a rise in LH, which is your luteinizing hormone. This stimulates one lucky follicle that will mature fully, and it releases into your tubes. This also leads to a rapid decrease in testosterone. During this time of the month, you're feeling social, communicative, and even more likely to attract the opposite sex. And this is also a really great time to go on a date. So you have a lot of energy to burn during this time of the month. So HIIT workouts are great, a boot camp class, power yoga, and even kickboxing during this time. For food, you want to focus on fiber, so lots of veggies and fruits. You also want to stick to lighter grains during this time, so quinoa and corn. Try and schedule your meetings during this time, and just overall use your communication as much as possible during this time. Talk about the things that you want with everyone, like communicate your needs. Whatever that you feel is important, have the conversation during this time. For sex, you are most likely to feel more frisky during this time, but this is also a time where you can totally get pregnant, so be careful. So luteal phase is the final phase that I'm gonna chat about. So first half of your luteal phase, you probably still have a lot of energy, and then you'll slowly see it decrease towards the second half of the luteal phase, and it pretty much drops to its lowest right before your period. During this time, you're gonna see a lot of PMS symptoms. There's a lot of myths out there that, you know, painful periods are like normal. Just because it's common doesn't mean that it's normal. And if you have severe period cramps, you might have high estrogen levels. So it's important to focus on detoxing your body during this time as well. I love to focus on rich B vitamins foods to starve off any sugar cravings that I have, focusing on boosting your calcium and magnesium with leafy greens. Adding baked veggies can help a lot also with your liver and large intestines to flush out estrogen more effectively. During the first half of your luteal phase, it's a great time to complete tasks. Any projects that you have started is a great time to get it done. If you have a to-do list that you've been meaning to complete, this is a great time to complete it. And then the second half, it's important to focus more on yourself, being more firm with your boundaries, saying no about things that you don't want. If you don't do that, you will be extremely irritated during this time. And honestly, sometimes communication can go a long way. Like maybe you can just let people around you know, like, hey, I'm about to get my period, and this is the time that like I don't really want to talk about, you know, certain things, or I'm just kind of like sensitive during this time. Because sometimes I'll be like, oh my god, I act so crazy, and then my period comes and I'm like, oh, it was just my luteal phase. So I think when you're more aware, you can communicate that with people around you. And this is not a good time to have like serious conversations or to engage in anything with your boss. And yeah, just try to avoid that as much as possible if you can during this time, and revisit it later after when you're in your follicular phase or your ovulatory phase. So for the first half of your luteal phase, you're most likely going to have a lot of energy that you can burn. So you could do similar to the workouts that you were doing in your ovulatory phase. And then towards the second half, you want to kind of focus on low impact workouts. So such as walking, Pilates, yoga, swimming. So for sex during this week, you're most likely going to feel ready to have sex, but it might take a lot more work to climax. Think of it as this is your romance phase. You might need to add a little bit of foreplay, and just overall romantic gestures are really great during this time of the month. This is also a really great time to speak up. So definitely let them know, like, this is what I need, this is what I want, and yeah, just express that.
Okay, I think that's gonna stay put. Okay, so it's been a few days and I just wanted to chat about the libido because I feel like a lot of girls struggle with having low libido, and I just wanted to share more about the low libido and how it's connected to hormonal imbalance and what could be the reasons why that's causing that. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I am not a sex coach. I'm just here just trying to share what I've learned. You can check out Alisa's book, Woman Code, which she talks more in depth about this. So the first one is birth control. If you are on birth control, that could be a reason why you're struggling with low libido. And it makes sense because birth control is designed to prevent ovulation. And if you're not ovulating, then you're not going to get in the mood. And we talked about this in the ovulation phase. That's usually the time when you're most likely to be in the mood to have sex. And I think that if you are on birth control, that it just makes sense that you could be struggling with that. I'm not here to just bash on birth control. I'm not anti-birth control. I think there's a time and place for it, but there's also other options like the copper IUD that is non-hormonal. There's also natural planning, which you can get like an Aura ring and track your cycles, or just natural planning and seeing when you're ovulating and tracking your cycles, and basically refraining from having sex during a specific time so you don't get pregnant. So there's obviously other options, but I just wanted to share that that could be a really big reason why you're struggling with low libido. The connections between your glands and your ovaries is basically not really working when you're on birth control, and it's doing all that it can to prevent ovulation. And if you think about it, if you're not ovulating, you're not going to get in the mood. So that's definitely one of the reasons. Stress is another reason why women have low libido. So stress management is really important. And the reason why is because if you have so much cortisol, your body is going to feel very stressed, and over time your body is just not going to feel safe to have a baby, and it's going to be like, you know what, we're just going to survive right now and we're not going to ovulate, and this could lead to you just having really low libido as well. So stress management is super important if you have a lot on your plate, and maybe you can remove stuff off your plate. But in the time that we're living, a lot of women are working and, you know, busy, so it's hard sometimes to, you know, live a stress-free life. But yeah, that could be another reason why you might have low libido. And of course, another one is deficiencies. So if you're not taking your supplements, your vitamins, and not eating whole foods, and your metabolic health like protein and balancing your blood sugar, this could also lead to having low libido as well. So staying on top of your health can be really important as well to enhance your hormones and everything else within your body, like your gut health. Like, all of these things are super important and could be reason of your low libido issues. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about body image, and this is something that I struggled with. And even if you have a baby or you don't, sometimes as women, you know, in the society that we live in, we expect to have these perfect bodies, and, you know, the type of culture that we're surrounded with women to look a certain way, and naturally that could be like a reason why you're lacking in terms of libido. And if you had a baby, I had a baby, so I know what it's like. You know, you have stretch marks, your body doesn't look the same. And I think learning to love yourself and your body and feeling comfortable within your own skin can be really helpful. I personally have not been in a relationship since I had my daughter, so I don't know what this is like to be intimate with someone after having a baby, so I can't speak to that. But I know that I did struggle with my body after I had my daughter, and I think working through my therapist on my self-worth, that it was more than just what I look. That kind of disconnect with your body can make it really difficult to, you know, engage in sex, or to even think that you're worthy of pleasure, or to think about anything related to sex. And, you know, it always starts with us, and we need to feel good about ourselves. We need to feel confident with ourselves. And once we do feel comfortable with our body, then I feel like it would be so much easier, you know, to engage in sex, to think about sex, to have fantasies, to have desires, all of these things. Also, how you were brought up and like your thoughts about sex is, you know, in a shameful way, in a negative way, do we look at it in a positive way? There's so many things, like it goes really deep, that I think it's important to talk about with a therapist, maybe even a sex coach. But that's pretty much what I wanted to share in this video. And if all of those things don't work for you and you're still having issues with your libido, then obviously talk to your doctor. Don't feel ashamed. A lot of people struggle with this, and you just talk to your doctor like, hey, this is what's going on, and maybe you can figure out if there's any other health issues or something that you just need to really work on. I hope that this video helps you and inspires you to connect more with your body, to love your body. This is specifically made for women, and I am just so excited to just start talking about this. I finally feel comfortable to talk about it, and I want to continue to do this and hold this space for women because I feel like sometimes it's just lacking, you know, if you know what I mean. But anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Also, it's my 1-year anniversary, which is so crazy on YouTube. Thank you so much for all your support, all of your likes, your comments. It means so much to me. I feel so happy that I started this journey on here, and I'll talk about it more soon. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.